Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we are discussing the purpura. First is the plate. Basically, these are due to the platelets disorders. First is we discuss with the idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura, which is an autoimmune mediated thrombocytopenic purpura. The idiopathic purpura basically occur due to the autoantibodies which are present and they react against the platelet membranes. That's why when the membrane of the platelets is damaged, it is removed from the circulation by the monocyte macrophage system, and so the number of the platelets are reduced. So this is basically idiopathic, but the one theory is that there are the antibodies which are pathogenic and they bind the platelets and they cause its removal. Basically, purpura mostly is idiopathic, but sometimes it is associated with other diseases like SLE. We have also seen in the dengue fever where there is a purpura. Okay, so but they are associated with some infections. But the ITP is disease which is we can say that it is a diagnosis of exclusion. This means that when there is no SLE, there is no secondary cause of the low platelets count like the medicines, like patient is using warfarin, heparin, or some HIV infection and hepatitis C infection, they have the low platelets count. So when the other causes are excluded and no diagnosis is there, then we can say that it is a diagnosis of exclusion. When we exclude other diseases, then its diagnosis is that it is ITP, idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura. Basically, the patient presents to us with the mucocutaneous bleeding, because the platelets bleeding usually cause the subcutaneous bleeding. Patient have the mucocutaneous bleeding, and other features of ITP are like the hepatitis C and HIV or SLE, like the gums bleeding, GI bleeding, basically the mucosal surface bleeding occur. And isolated platelets, and in this condition patients have only the low platelets count. Other cells counts like the WBC and hemoglobin is normal. When we take the bone marrow usually has the no problem. It has the megakaryocytes and it is absolutely normal. And we perform the hepatitis B, C and HIV serology, which is usually comes with negative. So this means that the bone marrow is producing the platelets in a required number, but when it goes into the circulation, these platelets are destroyed by some autoantibodies and they are removed from the blood circulation. That's why the patient has the reduced number of the platelets. This theory holds in the treatment also. I will tell you in the treatment phase why we give the immunosuppressive or steroidal therapy. Basically, we divide the feature into the two categories: acute ITP, idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura. Basically, this is seen in the children and often presents with 2 to 3 weeks of the viral infection. A patient has the viral infection and there is sudden drop in platelets count, and patient has the purpura on the skin. There is oral and nasal bleeding, and peripheral blood film, if it is done, it shows the reduced number of the platelets count. Other variety which is very common is the chronic ITP, and it is usually seen in the adults with we can say their age may be 20 to 50 years of the age. Patients are systemically well, no fever, no other complaints. They comes with to you only the complaint of the mucocutaneous bleeding, like patient has the epistaxis, oral bleeding, menorrhagia, and some on the skin purpuric rashes. This is all we can say that idiopathic, and we say that their autoimmune mechanism operates and they bind with the platelets, and platelets are damaged and they are removed from the circulation. In ITP, very important differentiating point is that there is no splenomegaly. While we see the splenomegaly in the CLD patients, in SLE patients and other autoimmune diseases where the splenomegaly is a feature, but in ITP, mind it, there is no splenomegaly. How will you investigate these patients? We order for the CBC, where we see the thrombocytopenia, means platelets counts are reduced while other cell lines like WBC and RBCs are normal. But the platelets are slightly enlarged. If we do the bone marrow examination, there are increased number of the megakaryocytes, means these are immature platelets. If we sometimes we perform the platelets antibody test and it is positive, but it is not a confirmatory test. This is very important things. So this is a picture of the purpura. There is a small pinhole, pinhead size. There are the reddish spots on the skin. It is the leg part where you seeing are the small purpuric rashes. Here you are seeing the mucocutaneous bleeding from the mouth. Here you are seeing the bleeding spot on the tongue, and here is bleeding spots on the gums of the patient. Here you are seeing the bleeding on the conjunctival, subconjunctival hemorrhage. This is also mucocutaneous bleeding. So patient may present from bleeding from anywhere. Okay. Now the last part is the how will you manage these patients, what treatment we will give. Treatment is the prednisolone. Basically this is the steroids, and basic concept for the giving steroid is that it will induce immunosuppression. Steroidal dose usually is the 1 to 2 milligram per kg per day for 7 to 10 days, and then we taper off, because we give these steroids to reduce the immunity of the patient. Other treatment option is the immunoglobulin. Immunoglobulin are given with the same dose of 1 milligram per kg per day for 1 to 2 days. It is very effective and it rapidly rise the platelet count. Response rate, we can say it is almost 90%, and the patient's platelets increase in 1 to 5 days. But this effects last only for at the most 2 weeks, means 15 days. Therefore, immunoglobulin therapy is basically reserved for the emergency situation. Other treatment option is the platelets transfusion. There is some requirement that when the platelets counts are less than 10,000 and there is troublesome bleeding occurring from the mouth or epistaxis or bleeding which is not stopping, we immediately give the patient 1 mega unit of the platelets. These are usually prepared in the big hospitals and they are readily available and they are rapidly transfused. We have the experience in the dengue fever. We give the patients platelets transfusion in the form of mega unit. Other treatment option is the danazol. Basically, patients not responding to the prednisolone and splenectomy, danazol is basically given. Okay. Other treatment option is the rituximab and thrombopoietin receptor agonist like the romiplostin, eltrombopag. These are the two drugs with their names are very difficult, but you must remember the main things. Other is the immunomodulator like mycophenolates, mofetels, azathioprine, cyclosporin. And the last treatment option is that if nothing is correcting and the patient again and again has a low platelet count, we go for the splenectomy, because the spleen is the ultimate site where the damaged platelets are removed from the blood. So this is all for the ITP and the what is the we can say that what are the treatment options which I have told you. Now we come with the next topic of the when to treat the platelets, when to go for the treatment for the thrombocytopenia. Patients should be have the spontaneous bleeding when the platelets counts occur from the mucocutaneous bleeding 10,000 to 20,000. Patients for the means at more than that count, mucocutaneous bleeding usually stop. If we are going for some procedure like the CVP line, we have the minimum requirement of platelets count of 20,000 to 50,000. If we are simultaneously giving the anticoagulant like the warfarin, we must have the platelets count of the 30,000 to 50,000. For minor surgery and minor procedure, we must have at least 50,000 to 80,000. Especially for your dentistry patients, you must have at least 80,000 patients. 80,000 platelets to 1 lakh. For the tooth extraction and for minor surgical procedure, you must have at least minimum of 50 to 80,000 platelets for some kind of surgery. Okay, this is the minimum requirement. Now we go for the coagulation, disorders of coagulation. Basically, disorder of the coagulation is almost same process by which we can say that the coagulation occurred. One was the platelets, other process is the clotting factors deficiency. Basically, the patients have the patients with inherited coagulation disorders. They come with the category of hemophilia A, hemophilia B. Hemophilia A is basically factor 8 deficiency and is sex-linked recessive disorder. Hemophilia B is also factor number 9 and it is also X-linked. Von Willebrand disease, which is most common inherited defects, and this is very important, which frequently patients come with this defect. Other is deficiency of the factor number 11 and other factors. Okay, these are the factors which affect the coagulation system in our body. Basically, we mostly consider the hemophilia and von Willebrand disease, which are very important for us, and other are minor and we don't take them so much seriously, or because mostly the examiners asked about the hemophilia A, B and the von Willebrand factor because they are more common. Other is the acquired defect of coagulation, means they are the congenital, now the acquired effect. Antibodies to coagulation factors, vitamin K deficiency, especially in the liver cirrhosis patients, and drugs which defect the coagulation system is the anticoagulants like the heparin, warfarins, and other condition is the disseminated intravascular coagulation and liver disease. In all these conditions, we have the defect in coagulation and patients bleed from the minor injuries. Now hemophilia, basically if we see the hemophilia, it is a hereditary disorder, mainly basically affects the male, but important is that it is transmitted by the females, and this is characterized by the prolonged coagulation disorder and lifelong tendency to excessive bleeding from the minor injuries. Basically in hemophilia, this is a congenital disorder. We divide the hemophilia into two parts, hemophilia A, hemophilia B. Hemophilia A is also called as the true hemophilia. In this condition, factor 8 activity is deficiency, and hemophilia is basically affect the male. Patients have the bleeding, recurrent bleeding, because the congenital disease, and the congenital diseases are not corrected by any medications. They are partially treated, but they again recur. So the patient has a bleeding into the joints, soft tissues and the muscles, and immediate treatment can reverse them. Immediate treatment is in the form of the factor 8 which is available in the market. So this is very important thing is that patients usually develop the bruising in early childhood, and the patients are usually diagnosed at the most at the 6 months to 1 year when they have the bruising on the minor trauma. So this is very important because patients have the present to you with the joint bleedings, especially joints. We can say that knee joints, elbow, ankles, these are the joints where the recurrent bleeding occur. Mucosal bleeding, especially from the mouth, gums, lips, and sometimes bleeding occur in the brain and kidney. Patient have the stroke. And sometimes muscle hematoma, when you give injection, intramuscular injection, patient have the muscle hematoma. So this is very important that if the patient has a defect in coagulation disorder, we must take the history, because the patient history starts from the early childhood, because it is a congenital disease. Other clinical features depend upon, we can say that the severity, when the factor severe disease less than 1%, factor number 8 activity, spontaneous bleeding occur, mild more than 5% factor 8 activity, unusual bleeding after trauma and surgery, moderate is factor 8 activity more than 1.1 to 5%. This is basically a we can say severity index, how much severity can occur. It depends upon the amount of factor number 8 activity. Okay, this is the picture where you are seeing that there is a bleeding occurred in the elbow joints. We can say that hemarthrosis. This is a small baby which has a bruise on minor injury. Sometimes the bleeding occur due to the pressure of the patients, and the bleeding occurs subcutaneous areas. So this is, you are seeing the baby which has a bleeding, spontaneous bleeding. This is due to the hemophilia. Next part is how will you investigate these patients. We perform these coagulation profile, which consists of the bleeding time, and in this case bleeding time is normal. We perform PT, prothrombin time, which is normal, APTTT, activated partial thromboplastin time, which is raised. If we do the factor number 8 C level, it is low, von Willebrand factor, which is normal. So these two things are abnormal in hemophilia. Now as far as the hemophilia B is concerned, this is less common than hemophilia A, and we clinically it is indistinguishable, because both the type of the patients presents with the same complication or same problem, that subcutaneous bleeding, joints bleeding, mucous membrane bleeding in the muscles. And hemophilia B is basically also called it Christmas disease. Okay, this is the other name of the hemophilia B. And the result, if we perform the labs, they show the prolonged APTT and normal PT, and reduce factor number 8 activity, while factor number 8 is normal. While hemophilia A, factor 8 activity was reduced, in hemophilia B, factor number 9 activity is reduced, while APTT is prolonged in both the cases. Last part is the treatment of hemophilia A and B, because they are congenital disorders. They are treated for time being, and then it can reoccur. So whenever the patient present to us with the excessive bleeding, we basically perform the replacement therapy. Patient have the deficiency of factor number 8, and in hemophilia patient has the deficiency of the factor 9. We give them fresh frozen plasma, FFP, which contains both factor number 8 and factor number 9 concentrates are extracted from the blood plasma. They are also available. One option is FFP, other is the isolated factor number 8 and 9 concentrate. Other is recombinant human factor number 8 and 9. They are also available. They are they are formed with the molecular technology. Other treatment option is the desmopressin. This is basically for the mild cases. Other treatment is antifibrinolytic, like the aminocapric acids. These are the treatment options which are available in for the hemophilia patients. Complication is concerned, because of the recurrent bleeding in the joints, there is damage to the joints, because the blood which collect in the joint space, it causes damage of the membranes. In the bleeding occur in the muscles, it leads to the muscle contracture, and this lead to the permanent disability. Development of antibodies to relevant factors leads to resistance to the treatment. Sometimes antibodies are formed and we are giving the factor number 8 and the patient has a no improvement. This is also a complication. Other is that whenever the blood transfusion occur or FFP's transfusion occur, there is always chance that it can hepatitis B, C and HIV can be transmitted. So ideally we perform the screening for these viral infections, but sometimes mistakes occur, or sometimes patient has the say in the phase incubation phase, when the patient's hepatitis B, C and HIV are not positive and the blood is taken and it is transfused to the hemophilia patient, then these virus appeared in that patient and patient gets the hepatitis B and C and HIV infection. So these are very important complication. Here are the picture of the heme arthrosis, means bleeding occur, recurrent bleeding occur. Here is the picture. The bleeding occurred in the joint spaces. Ultimately it leads to the osteoporosis and osteoarthritis, and it leads to the narrowing of the, here you are seeing there is total joint space is obliterated because of recurrent bleeding and fibrosis. Patients has a difficulty in the walking and the daily mobility. So this is hemophilia A. Next disease which we are discussing is the von Willebrand disease. Basically von Willebrand disease is the more common congenital disease, and it is transmitted in an autosomal dominant pattern. Okay, it is transmitted with autosomal dominant pattern. Basically it is characterized by the deficient or defect in von Willebrand factor. Okay, von Willebrand factor is basically large multimeric glycoproteins, and function of this is that it mediates the platelets aggregation and attachment at the site of the endothelial injury. Basically it stabilizes the factor number 8 at some site where the bleeding is going on. When this factor is deficient, so this leads to the poor platelet aggregation with superficial type of the bleeding and without sometimes without bleeding, and there is defect in coagulation system and the effective clot is not formed. That's why the patient has the bleeding tendency. Okay, in this case the patient has the mostly usually comes to us with the mucosal bleeding. Mucosal bleeding means males and females both are affected equally, and the patient has the epistaxis, gum bleeding, gingival bleeding, menorrhagia, GI bleeding, bleeding from the minor trauma, and patients are usually sometimes mistakenly take aspirin, then the bleeding occur. And so this is very important part, is that we should not prescribe aspirin and NSAIDs to these patients because the bleeding tendency become increased. They are already deficient in von Willebrand factor. So this is for the clinical presentation. These are almost clinical presentation are same for all the these disorders like hemophilia, ITP and von Willebrand disease. Clinical presentation is almost same, but the cause is different in different conditions. Here is a picture. You are seeing that there is a gum or gingival bleeding without any cause. We must investigate. If the patient present to you with the gums bleeding, you ask the patient to go for the von Willebrand factor. Then you will find that patient may have the von Willebrand disease. Here is a picture where there is epistaxis is going on, and without any reason patient has the recurrent nose bleeding. Now that comes with the investigation. Bleeding time is increased, PT is normal, APTT is raised, factor number 8C sometimes low, but important is that von Willebrand factor is low. So we ask for the quantity of von Willebrand factor, and it is low in the we can say in the von Willebrand disease. Other important thing is that patient has the prolonged bleeding time. This is first time you are seeing. Otherwise, in previous diseases, the bleeding time was normal. In this case, bleeding time is also prolonged, APTT is also raised, factor 8 is low, and von Willebrand factor is also low. But only the PT is normal in the coagulation profile. As far as the treatment is concerned, treatment is usually the symptomatic, like desmopressin, basically a synthetic vasopressin analog, and which leads to a release of von Willebrand factor from the storage sites in the body. And other is that we give the patient inactivated von Willebrand factor containing concentrates, which are available in the markets for the, if we going for the any surgery. Other is antifibrinolytics, which are also given for the treatment of these patients. Here, so these are the treatment options which are available for the von Willebrand disease. As far as the acquired defects of coagulation, which I have told you in the previous slide, whether you have concentrated or not, I don't know. These were the congenital, and these are now the acquired. Acquired are antibodies formed in different conditions, like the patient has a viral infection and antibodies are also formed against the coagulation factor. Other is vitamin K deficiency, acquired factor. Drugs like the anticoagulants, heparin, warfarin, and other is the DIC, disseminated intravascular coagulation, liver disease. So these are the acquired coagulation defects. Now the treatment for these defects is that we usually treat the cause. If the patient has the deficiency of vitamin K, we give the vitamin K, which is available in the market. If the patient has a liver disease, treat the liver disease. If the patient has a DIC due to septicemia or infection, we usually treat the septicemia with the antibiotics. If we need sometimes that bleeding is occurring from the gums, epistaxis, we can give the replacement therapy in the form of FFPs, fresh frozen plasma. Okay, this is also available in the market. If we have given the drugs and its overdosage occur, especially for the warfarin, which is given for the valvular replacement patient, we give the antidote in the form of vitamin K. And protamine sulfate, which is antidote for heparin. If we give excessive quantity of heparin and patient has a bleeding occur, we give the antidote in the form of protamine sulfate. So these were important because usually we come across with the overdosage of some treatment, and we must know the antidote for this treatment and what treatment options are available. Now we come with the different topic of thrombotic disorders, where the excessive quantity of thrombosis occur. Here previously we are dealing with the diseases where the coagulation does not occur. Now we come with the diseases where the hypercoagulation occur. We can say thrombophilias. There may be primary disorders. There may be deficiency of anti-thrombotic factors like factor number 3 deficiency, protein C, S deficiency. These are the deficiencies are inherited. Other inherited is the prothrombotic factors like factor number 5A, activated protein C resistance, factor 5 latent deficiency, and other is the prothrombin mutations. So these are the primary or inherited disorder where the increased coagulation occurs, especially in the leg veins and some arterial areas. Other is the secondary causes, acquired causes. We said that one is the abnormality of blood flow, like hyperviscosity state. Like in the pregnancy there is hyperviscosity occur, or some dehydration, patient has the hyperviscosity. Surgery, venous stasis, especially trauma or fracture in the legs, patient have the usually develop the venous stasis. Other is obesity. Obesity is a big risk factor for the coagulation. Immobility, especially in the trauma, patient is immobile and the patient develop the DVT, deep venous thrombosis. Other is abnormality of blood composition like the pregnancy, oral contraceptive pills, cancers, myeloproliferative disorder. All in these conditions there is increased tendency for the clotting of the blood, hypercoagulable state. Other is the abnormalities of the blood vessels like antiphospholipid syndrome, vasculitis and hyperhomocystinemia. These are the conditions which also lead to the increased coagulation. The patient manifests to us with the venous thrombosis. Patient have the DVT, leg vein thrombosis, which is very common in these conditions, and when the clot is dislodged from that area, this goes to venous blood goes to the lungs, right heart and then to the lungs. When the clotted blood goes to the lungs, we call this condition as pulmonary embolism. Leg veins are more notorious where the clotting occur. Other veins we can clotting can occur, venous thrombosis can occur. Okay, the leg veins are not the only site where the thrombosis occur. In other veins sometimes also the thrombosis occur. Other is very important is the arterial thromboembolism. If the arteries are blocked with some clot, this means that blood flow in that area will be stopped. When no blood goes to some area, say we give the example of the leg area, we have the clot in the artery, in the femoral artery. The blood supply of the femoral artery is stopped. When the arterial blood flow to that area stop, this leads to the gangrene of that area, and when the gangrene occur, we have to do for the amputation. So this is very important complication. Other example of the arterial thromboembolism is that we develop the CVA, cerebrovascular accident, where the clot occur in the brain's vessels and brain is damaged and patient has the hemiplegia, and we call it as the stroke has occurred because the arterial supply to the brain has stopped and that area of the brain is stopped functioning and it damaged. So the part of the body which is controlled by that area of the damage will be lost and the patient develop the weakness on that half of the body. We call this condition as the stroke. So this is the example of the arterial thromboembolism. Here is the picture. You are seeing the DVT. The patient has the increased size of the calf muscles. This calf muscle is small size. This is due to the DVT. There is a clot here from the veins. This clot goes to the right heart, and from the right heart, because of the pulmonary arteries, it goes to the lungs, and this condition is known as the pulmonary embolism. The lab investigation which usually we perform is the antithrombin level, protein C, S, factor V Leiden, prothrombin mutations, and antiphospholipid antibodies. Where we are suspecting antiphospholipid syndrome, we perform the antiphospholipid antibodies and homocysteine levels. So these are the important investigations when we usually performed. And now to whom we should suspect the thrombophilia. In what patients we are suspecting that these patients develop the thrombophilia. A documented event before the 50 years of age, if the patient has the DVT at the age of 30 or 40 years, patient has tendency that he may have the thrombophilia. A positive family history, certainly these factors deficiency like protein C, S, antithrombin, they usually run in the families. So if the family members have this disease, the other family members may have this disease. This means that positive family history. Massive or submassive pulmonary embolism. If the patient has the history that he has previously developed the pulmonary embolism, we go for these investigation. Spontaneous thrombosis at an unusual site. Sometimes venous thrombosis occur in the cavernous sinus. This is an unusual site. Then we should go for these investigation, protein C, S and antithrombin 3 levels. So these are the patients which are suspected for thrombophilia. As far as the management is concerned, treatment for the thrombotic and for the arterial thrombosis, immediately clot is extracted with the help of the vascular surgeon, and if this is not possible, then we go for the thrombolysis therapy in the form of the streptokinase, and anticoagulation therapy in the form of the heparin and warfarin. These are the treatment options, means three ways. If the facility is available and clot is approachable, first option is to remove the clot with the help of extraction. The guide wire is available and clot is extracted. If this is not possible, second option is thrombolysis. We give the in the arteries the streptokinase. This will thrombolyze the clot. Other treatment option is the anticoagulation. If these two are not possible, we give the heparin or warfarin. Other disease which affect the veins, the treatment option, first treatment option is the anticoagulation. Here you are seeing that there is, I am not telling you the clot extraction therapy. First treatment option is anticoagulation therapy. This is in the form of warfarin and heparin. Rarely surgical extraction is required and thrombolysis is required. Thrombolysis we usually done when the patient develop the pulmonary embolism. In the DVT we do not do the thrombolysis. As far as concerned for the prophylaxis is concerned, to whom we should give the prophylactic therapy that they do not develop the clot, we call it as the prophylactic therapy. So the prophylactic therapy are given to the high risk patients, especially if they have the congenital deficiency of antithrombin 3 factor 3 protein CS deficiency. We give them prophylaxis therapy. Or the patient has the valvular replacement, mitral valve replacement, we give them the prophylaxis therapy, prophylactic therapy. This is the picture which is for the inferior vena cava filter, which is also a treatment option for the pulmonary embolism. Cava filter is applied and it catches or it holds the clots and does not allow to go to the heart. So this is the cava filter which is applied also in the Farooq hospital and the Doctor hospital. Venal cava filter are available. When the other treatment options are failing, we do the venal cava filter. We apply a filter and it catches small clots and stop clots to go to the brain tissue, to the lungs tissue. Medical anticoagulants which are given to the high risk surgery, history of same thing, recurrent attacks, coagulation profile is disorder, prosthetic cardiac valve replacement, cardiac abnormality like arrhythmias or some have aneurysms, and therapeutic after the thrombotic attacks. Commonly used anticoagulants which are available in the market and we usually use in our treatment options are the heparin, which acts via the antithrombin 3. So its effects is immediate and this is reliable anticoagulation. But in this case we have to give the in the form of IV infusion or subcutaneous injection, and we need to repeatedly monitor the APTT. Sometimes the excessive anticoagulation occur and patient have the gum bleeding or epistaxis. So we have to monitor the treatment. We give the dose of the monitor and we monitor it with the help of APTT. Warfarin, which is other available in the market in the form of tablets, basically it blocks the vitamin K dependent coagulation factors. It has the slow onset of action, usually takes 72 hours to action develop, and it also needs recurrent monitoring. If the excess dose is given, we give the antidote for warfarin is vitamin K, and antidote for the heparin is the protamine sulfate. Means if excessive anticoagulation occur, we give the antidote. Other is the anti-factor number 10 agents, which is formed in the rivaroxaban, which is available in the market, and this is a tablet form. It is very good. It is also available in the injectable form like in the with the name of the Clexane. These are very good in the way that we do not need to frequent monitor it, and they have the unpredictable or under but defect side effects are some, we can say that this is that they have the unpredictable effects, and we cannot monitor with the help of any anticoagulation test, but they are very safe, and especially for the old patients we give these anti-factor number 8. They are available in the form of injection like the Clexane, and in the form of tablet like the Rivaroxaban. So this is very important that you must know these also things. So the 3 types of anticoagulants available: one is the heparin, other is the warfarin, and third is anti-factor number 10 agents. So this is very important, you must know all these things. Thank you very much. If you have any query or question, you can send to me in my WhatsApp group. We will also arrange tests in my future lectures, and I will then tell you, but you must read the previous chapter, GI and liver diseases. I will take test like other my teachers are taking, and I will tell you when I will fix the date. Thank you very much.